ब्रह्म तुम आप ही आपन दूजो गुरुवर आप ही आपन दूजो गुरुवर शरणन शरणन लीजो। वचन पुष्प ही है विमल की यह स्तुति वचन पुष्प ही है विमल की यह स्तुति होय जैसे तुम्हारी हो गुरुवर होय जैसे तुम्हारी हो होय जैसे तुम्हारी जो गुरुवर शरणन शरणन लीजो गुरुवर शरणन 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 लीजो। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
विविधा हि स्वरूपा देवी परा महाकाली च लक्ष्मी सरस्वतीया पुरुषार्थप्रदायिनि देवी परा राजराजेश्वरी पराशक्ति उमा कल्याणकरि देवी समष्टिपरा परिवारसुपालिनि व्यष्टि सदा दुर्गा वरदा भयनाशिनि मम तामसहारिणि पालय माम् सदा स्वार्थस्य सिद्धित्वया कृपया परिपूर्णपरार्थप्रसादकरि मनमोहिनि कामिनि लादकरि दुरदृष्टविनाशिनि भाग्यमये इहलौकिकज्ञानप्रदायिनि मा परलौकिकविद्याप्रदर्शिनि मा श्रुतिदेवि सरस्वती वेदमयी वरदे वरं देहि मे मोक्षप्रदे जय हे शिवशक्तिमयी जय हे शुभलक्ष्मीमयी जय हे श्रुतिसारमयी जय हे जगदात्ममयी जय हे शिवशक्तिमयी जय हे शुभलक्ष्मीमयी जय हे श्रुतिसारमयी जय हे जगदात्ममयी।
Go.
Hari Om. Pranams to Swamiji, Vivekji, and all our teachers. With Gurudev's grace and blessings and the guidance of Swami Dhiranandaji, we're blessed to be part of this first ever virtual Navaratri retreat. My name is Sudhita Kasturi, and I have the honor of introducing today's speaker, Sri Vivek Gupta. My family and I have known Vivekji since 2008 when he returned to North America after completing 2 years of intensive study at the premier Vedantic Institute, Sandeepani Sadhanalaya. Since then, we have attended numerous in-person and online classes, retreats, and workshops led by Vivekji. My family has had the pleasure to work with Vivekji on some of these projects, and his leadership and guidance have been invaluable to us. Vivekji has been invited to speak at an array of community groups, academic forums, professional associations, medical departments, and corporations around the world, including the Office of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., Regional Mental Health Care Hospital in London, Carnegie Mellon University, London Police, and Microsoft. Vivekji makes Vedanta relevant, reachable, and relatable to seekers of all ages. Having grown up in the West, Vivekji is able to connect to the younger generation and understand where they're coming from, thus providing an invaluable intergenerational bridge. Vivekji is supported in all his travels and endeavors by his wonderful wife, Sheila. He's the father of 2 young boys and enjoys spending time with them and being present for them. Vivekji brings this knowledge of Grihastashrama and parenting to his teachings and helps all of us lead happier and fuller lives while fulfilling all our roles and responsibilities. Vivekji, we welcome you to this first ever virtual Navaratri retreat. We look forward to learning from you.
Good evening. Greetings from Niagara Falls. Everyone can hear me and see me clearly? Okay. I'm honored that I get to be with all of you to remember our Divine Mother and to revel in being her children. This evening, I'm going to be speaking on the flow of purity. And as I speak, there may be some special sound effects in the background. Shuka may cry, Vyasa splashing around in the tub. The forthcoming speakers won't provide such special sound effects. That's the uniqueness of what I'm sharing this evening. We'll chant Om once. I'll share my thoughts formally. And then, of course, there'll be time at the end if you have any questions. Oh. Narayana. A joyous Navaratri to all. Built into the terminology of this Utsava is Ratri. What is special about Sanatana Dharma, the opportunity to remember Bhagavan, God, is not conditioned by daytime or nighttime, out of fear, out of love. The term Ratri in English means night. Ratri is symbolic for darkness. Darkness is symbolic for tamas. And tamas is symbolic for forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of our Divine Mother. Who she is, what she is, where she is. We experience this first by externalizing our Divine Mother. As long as you externalize Bhagavati, one will be God-fearing. And this is very much not in tune with Sanatana Dharma. We are not a God-fearing religion. But this is our experience because we've forgotten her. We feel that she's external to us. When this externalization is not checked, then we start to separate ourselves from her. No, she doesn't separate herself from us. We separate ourselves from her. And this is experienced as being busy. We get busy in our lives. In busyness, we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. Instead of engaging in our routine, instead of engaging in our responsibilities for our mother, we're just doing. How are we supposed to stop this wrong thinking, this wrong acting? The means to doing so, 4 S's. If you're going to try to remember all of the frameworks I'm going to share with you tonight, you're not going to. So it's better that you write these down. Okay? So here are these 4 S's. This is the means to stop thinking and acting where we feel our Divine Mother is external, our Divine Mother is separate. The first S is slow down. We live in a period called Kali. Kali has many meanings. One of them is all moves fast. Yes, 2020 is almost over. A fast year, even though we're stuck at home, enjoying our time with our 2 toddlers, yes? Slow down. Once you slow down, this becomes conducive to stepping back. Whenever you're heated up, you get into someone's face or they get into your face, correct? And how do you diffuse that circumstance? By stepping back. Once you slow down, step back. The next S is see up. When we step back, instead of seeing down or seeing straight, see up. In seeing up, we start to live more simply. We engage in higher thinking. If you've ever seen an image of Earth from space, it really puts us in the right perspective, correct? Are our problems so significant? Then our only problem is the environment, correct? After we step back, we see up. After we see up, smile forth. That's your 4th S. Smile forth. Seeing up, we come to feel our Divine Mother is not separate. She's not external. She lives within us, as us. Then what will you do? You'll smile. It doesn't matter what circumstance, daytime, nighttime, you will smile. This is the means. And when we complete the means, we'll experience the ends. So here's the ends. Instead of Ratri, we will experience Rati. Rati means joy, independent joy. Instead of darkness, there will be light. In Sanskrit, the word for light is bha, like Bharata, the one who revels in light, the one who revels in joy. Instead of tamas, there will be sattva. Tamas is laziness, sattva is calmness. Instead of forgetting our Divine Mother, we will remember our Divine Mother. She lives in us, as us, just like the cause pervades the effect. A very lovely expression or visualization of what I just shared is in Bhagavatam. And this is what I'm going to reference as the substance for the flow of purity. Here's the background. When Bhagavan Krishna is born, he's born in prison and is transported to Gokul. And when Sri Nanda wakes up, he sees his most divine child. He first awakens. As soon as he awakens, what does he do? He freshens. Very different than what we do with the coronavirus, correct? We just showered an hour before we gathered tonight, yes? We awaken, do a lot of stuff, and then freshen comes later. Awakens, freshens. After that, he prays. And the fourth verb he engages in, he shares. Awakens, freshens, prays and shares. Bhagavan Krishna is born with all of us. How? Our nature is Ananda. The word Krishna means joy. He's born with us. In secular terms, this is called ability. Our ability is like that of Bhagavan Krishna to be independently joyous. But you have to know that to benefit by that, correct? A simple example, if you're in Niagara Falls, Canada, and you don't know that Chinmaya Mission has an ashram in Niagara Falls, then you never put in the effort to visit the ashram, correct? But if you know Chinmaya Dhara is in Niagara Falls, then you put in the effort to come see Bhagavan Krishna, correct? Because you know that, you benefit from that. And if you don't know it, you don't benefit. When we know Bhagavan Krishna is born with us, that's called capability. How much of your ability have you captured? Correct? The example that Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda often uses, the sun shines on every home, but it's the homes with the windows open or the blinds open that experience that light. You're with me? Okay, I've only begun my frameworks, okay? I'm giving you 9 nights of content on the first night. So how are we supposed to know that Bhagavan Krishna is born with us? In the case of Sri Nanda, he just sees him. He feels him. It's harder for us. So the first general way to do this, I've shared with you. Slow down, step back, see up, smile forth. Now I've shared with you a second framework, the one that Sri Nanda follows. Awakes, freshens, prays, and shares. Now the dots will be connected. How does this all relate to Navaratri? Awakening is when we worship Devi Parvati. Freshening is when we worship Devi Lakshmi. Praying is when we worship Devi Saraswati. And sharing, we only share when we feel that wealth, that privilege, that joy, is when we celebrate Vijayadashami. So those are 3 general frameworks. Now, the rest of my time, I'm going to invest into a specific framework. I'm reading from the 10th skanda, the 5th adhyaya, the 4th shloka, 10.5.4, if you wish to study this more. Rishi Shuka is sharing with Raja Parikshita from Bhagavatam what Sri Nanda does. Kalena snana shauchabhyam samskarais tapasejaya shuddhyanti danai santushtya dravyanyatmatma vidyaya. This is the flow of purity. Purity is practiced in this way. In terms of our articles, purity manifests through kala. Now, all those who know how to use Zoom and the chat, what does kala mean? Kala means, like kali, time. Okay, this is the literal meaning. Articles are purified by time. How are we to interpret this and practice this? Whatever articles you have, use them. Your shoes, your clothes, your pens, your food, use them. Whenever you use what you have, those articles become pure. Whenever we misuse whatever we have, those articles become impure. As simple as, if we use wealth in the right way, it's pure, correct? If we use wealth in the wrong way, that same wealth becomes impure. So our first practice in the flow of purity, all of the articles, all of the objects you have, use them. Many of you were born in Bharat and didn't have the privileges you now have. Show me how small your pencil was before you disposed of it. There was just the eraser left, correct? What about soap? You took all those small pieces and made one big piece, correct? We didn't live in a consumption-based society or a disposable society, right? Use your articles. Next, snana. How do we purify bodies? Bodies are purified by snana, which in English means bathing. Do you really need Bhagavatam to remind you of that? Do you need Navaratri once a year to remind you to engage in snana? How this is practiced is simplify. Whatever you give to your body, whatever you do for your body, simplify. Quicker showers, cheaper clothes, less condiments when you eat. I'm sort of hinting at all the South Indians who are demanding of their yogurt. Slowly I get muted, correct? Simplify what you give to this body. Simplify what you do to this body, because really this body is just like an article, isn't it? You got to hear the introduction that was shared earlier. I believe the first time I came and met all of you was in the end of July of 2008. That was more than 12 years ago. I look the same, yes? Simplify. The third, shaucha. In terms of places, your office, your driveway, your ashram, places are purified by shaucha. Now this word shaucha, we typically read or hear in India, shauchalaya, correct? Toilet. Those places are the opposite of clean. Again, do you need Navaratri to remind you of this? Here, shaucha, how do you practice this? Organize. All of the places that you interact with in, organize them. Starting with your kitchen sink. Organize your desk. Organize your shoes. Organize your car. Organize your inbox. And see how when all of this is organized, we start to become more organized with our thinking. We're externalizing Devi. That's why we are living with fear. We've separated ourselves from Devi. That's why we're busy. Organize. Next is samskara. For our lifestyles to be pure, we have to practice samskaras. In English, this means to care. Care. There's so many programs in schools now about mindfulness, correct? You practice that, you teach that. I joke with those who maybe are a little bit more mature. You know what mindfulness was called back in the day? It was called paying attention. You didn't need a program, you just paid attention, correct? This is how much we've lowered our standards that we have to have such programs. In our culture, we have these traditions where every significant part of our life, we're caring about that. Our first haircut, our first ear piercing, our first day of school. Yes. Care about your lifestyle. As soon as we leave our driveway, I'm speaking to you from our home in Niagara Falls, our younger son Chuka says, Jay. He has no idea why he's saying Jay, but he says Jay, because what we've done now is when we drive, we go through all of our Jay cars. Sadhgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. Syavara Ramachandra ki Jai. And Vyasa, our older son, always ends with Aaj ke Anand ki Jai. He says it fast and says Jai himself. And my point is that getting out of our driveway has become more meaningful now, correct? Care about your lifestyle. After samskara is tapa. For our senses, how do we infuse purity into our senses? Tapa. In English, this means to direct. Direct. When your senses direct you, you're in danger. The senses are a weapon then. Just like a car, correct? If a car is controlling you, you're in danger. Your car is a weapon. But when you direct your senses, it's not a weapon, it's an instrument, it's a tool. When you direct your car, it's a vehicle that gets you places. Direct the senses. As simple as know when to close WhatsApp. Do you know how many minutes a day are utilized over WhatsApp? 2.5 billion minutes a day are utilized over WhatsApp. I think half of that is in India. And it flows into North America, correct? See, we don't know how to direct our senses. We just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Yes? Tapa is directing your senses. Number 6, seja. This is in reference to rituals. Rituals are purified by seja, which in English means sacrifice. But here's our practice, okay? Because seja is not a familiar word to us. It does mean sacrifice. The way we can practice this is focus. Whenever you're engaged in a Paduka Puja, are you tracking all of the names that are chanted? Are you smelling the flowers? When you're chanting Lalita Sahasranama, are you seeing who's coming in at the end without their cameras on? Or are you focusing on the names, on the movement? See the sacrifice involved. We have to sacrifice worldliness, sacrifice distraction, and this is expressed by focusing on that ritual. Thus far, I've shared 4 articles use. For bodies, simplify. For places, organize. For lifestyle, care. For senses, direct. For rituals, focus. And now the last three ways to infuse us with purity. And these are the most important. Number 7 is resources. And resources are purified by dana. Dana has many meanings like be charitable, donate, don't be conjuice. How we can practice this: equalize, equalize. I know most of you. I've stayed at most of your homes, or definitely eaten at most of your homes. And I know the privilege you have, and I have too. Not everyone has the same privilege. Dana is not a feeling of generosity or donating, but it's equalizing or sharing privilege, isn't it? In terms of healthy food or good teachers. Equalize. When you interpret dana as equalize, this becomes part of your life, isn't it? Not just donating because year end is coming and you want to decrease your taxes, or Deepavali is coming, right? You're equalizing privilege. After that, santushta. How do you purify the mind? You infuse it with santushta, which means contentment technically. You already know these technical definitions. How to practice this in joy. I'm intentionally spelling this incorrectly. I'm not saying enjoy. I'm saying enjoy. There's lots we enjoy. Like that new show, I think it's called Bad Boy Billionaires, correct? On Netflix that everyone is watching. We enjoy, but when you enjoy your own mind, the development of your mind, that is contentment. Enjoy. And as Gurudev has shared, if you don't enjoy your own company, why do you inflict it upon others? Correct? Enjoy. And a simple way to enjoy is introspect, detect, negate, substitute, enjoy. Point to me who your best friend is. So Asini saying Anuradha, and Sudiksha saying Deepa, and Deepa saying Sharmishta. When your best friend is your own mind, that's where you grow out of FOMO and into JOMO. FOMO is the fear of missing out. I'm always looking externally. There's no santushta there. JOMO is the joy of missing out. I'm with my best friend. I don't need other friends. If I have them, good, and if I don't have them, fine. And number 9, vidya. How do you purify the ego? By infusing the ego with vidya. And vidya means remembrance. Avidya is forgetfulness. That's why I live with fear. That's why I live in a busy way. And so how do I cure that? Finally, with remembrance. To remember the Divine Mother lives in us, as us, not just on the first day of Navaratri, not just on Vijayadashmi, not just on Deepavali, not just on Mahashivratri. To remember her perpetually, this is the meaning of nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means nitaram dhyaihi. Dhyaihi means to remember or to keep in mind. Nitaram means when? Not daily, not hourly, perpetually. Rishi Shuka is explaining to Raja Parikshita how Sri Nanda deserves Bhagavan Krishna. Because of all of these 9 practices I just shared, he awakes, he freshens, he prays, he shares. He's slowed down, stepped back, sees up, smiles forth. Our ego expresses itself as expectations. Sadly, during this challenge that we're going through, we've all been at home for 7 months now, domestic violence is growing. Divorces are growing, etc., etc., etc. Why? Because of a mismanagement of expectations. I expect you to do this for me. I expect you to treat me like this. The ego and expectations are synonymous. And these expectations, they manifest generally in 3 ways. So as I share these, you analyze your day, and if this fits into how your day was. The most surface type of expectation that we have is recognition. Recognition. Like, after I'm done speaking, I expect to be recognized. That's the only reason I'm doing this. Correct? Recognition. Subtler than that, and I'm just joking, all of the people who don't know me, how did he get to speak first? Subtler than that is appreciation. Appreciation. This typically happens at home. We want to be appreciated for whatever we're doing at home. Yes? And subtler than that is inclusion. Inclusion. I want to be included in your friendship, in that social circle, in this community. The ego expresses its expectation in all of these ways, but with vidya, with remembering that our Divine Mother lives in us, as us, how can we ever feel incomplete? Not possible, correct? When Bhagavan Krishna was with anyone, everyone felt complete. I've never met Gurudev, but living with Guruji, when you're living with one who is complete, you feel that same sense that's radiated towards you. When I remember that Bhagavati Parvati, Bhagavati Lakshmi, Bhagavati Saraswati, Bhagavati Durga lives in me as me, I will feel complete. Not afraid, not busy. Whenever you're resisting your dharma, dharma here means your responsibilities. Whenever you don't want to wake up in the morning, whenever you don't want to be part of satsang, whenever you don't want to engage in garbha. See how I made that your responsibility? I know there's lots of Gujaratis here. Whenever you resist your responsibilities, what is coming to the surface is sakama, selfishness. Selfishness is being afraid, being busy, and the quickest, most efficient, effective way of curing sakama, smarana. And that is the final message I want to share with everyone with the commencement of Navaratri is smarana. Smarana means to remember. Remember, the Divine Mother lives in you as you. Narayani. With the formal part of my sharing complete, now we have time for any questions you have, any clarifications you need, and you can type that in the chat because so many have joined us for Navaratri. Ask freely. If you have that question, 10 others do.
Hari Om Vivekji, thank you so much for that very, very inspiring talk. I would just request all the participants to type your questions on chat to Q&A host, as Vivekji mentioned, and so we'll read the questions out as they come in, Vivekji.
Solid.
So the first question we have is from Shuchi ji. Vivekji, pranams. You've given some very practical tips on living a Vedantic life. How do you motivate yourself to stay disciplined in your sadhana?
How does one discipline oneself to stay motivated in one's sadhana? Number one, the more gross way to learn is through fear. The subtler way to learn is through love. When you do a cost-benefit analysis of not living with discipline, you realize how much that costs you and doesn't benefit you. Agreed? Like overeating. The second plate, fine. The third plate, if you really analyze that, there's some benefit, but mostly cost. Food coma, fatigue while driving, etc. Yes? So engage in a cost-benefit analysis of being indisciplined. And there's significantly more costs. Do you all agree? Acharya Shankara shares in Viveka Chudamani, built into pleasure is pain or poison. And anyone who's engaging in vichara, viveka, if I know, imagine after this festival, I go and have a bowl of ice cream, but there's a feeling I have that this has been tainted with some sort of chemical. I know that's a strange example, but if I feel that, I'm going to throw that out right away, correct? All wise teachers have shared that in pleasure is pain or poison. Another way. When you engage in discipline, in sadhana, accurately, in a valid way, assess how you feel. See, right now, and I'm sure you also, feel sattvic, feel independent. And after this, if you get back onto WhatsApp and someone asks you, hey, where were you for the last hour? This boring speaker was talking about something, organize this and wash this and so on. See how all of a sudden we've made this invalid? We're lying to ourselves, correct? Assess this accurately, that there is a lot of benefits to waking up early, as an example. And finally, when you have the right role models, you will model those role models. When you have the wrong role models, this can be endlessly destructive. Who are your role models? There are many of you, particularly our Devis, who were part of our Running from the Mind challenge. In other words, we ran a half marathon this past Sunday. And everyone was very inspired by each other. Some were slower, some were faster. And I recently received an email from one of the runners who said he tried to run 5 kilometers post the half marathon, but it was a struggle. Why was it a struggle? He just ran 21 kilometers. It was a struggle because these role models have gone now, correct? Out of sight, out of mind. Keep your role models in sight. When you keep them in sight, you will start to internalize them too. There is not a moment when I don't think of Swami Tejomayananda. And what always comes from that is, what would the wise do? Would Swami Tejomayananda bless and approve of the way I'm thinking, the way I'm speaking, the way I'm acting? See, he is in my sight for so long that I feel that I've internalized him. We all can. Ekalavya did the same, no? I hope that helps, Shuchi. Okay, Deepa. Any other questions?
Yes, there's many questions, Rich.
Okay, I'll be faster now.
So the next one is from Akhila ji and Sita ji. How to determine how much time and resources to spend in volunteering for a cause that is worthy?
Got it. Akila from Seattle, and her bracketed name is Sita because she's part of our Devi class. I've asked all of our Devis to come up with their own Devi name. Mine is not Narayani. So, there are three things you can give to this multiverse: resources, time, and effort. The first two are more measurable, the last is not. One should give, however old they are, put a decimal point in between. That percentage of your gross income should go towards resources. So if you're 50, 5% of your gross income should be donated. Dana was already referenced. And the beauty of this, the older you get, the more you should give, correct? You shouldn't get more, you should give more. In terms of time, however old you are, you put a decimal place there and divide it by half. So if you're 50, 2.5% of your time should be directed towards volunteering. 2.5% times 168 is 6 hours, let's say. That's very manageable. We have 168 hours. So this is resources and time. If you do these two, you will find your effort, which is immeasurable, will be directed towards seva. Okay? The older you get, the more independent you should be. When you're 60, it's called Shashti Purti, correct? At 60, you shouldn't need anything else. All you should need is biology, some food, some shelter, etc. Next.
Thank you, Viveki. The next question is anonymous. It says, how do we inspire ourselves to share or remind ourselves about Dhanam? What is the daily tool or tip?
Mm-hmm. How do we remind ourselves to give more? This is an anonymous, which really means someone from CMWRC planted this question in this. And I already know CMWRC. This is my center too. That's why I don't need any dakshina. I'm not here to get, I'm here to give. Number one, I'll give you one framework, okay? Those who are generous are those who are grateful. So generosity on the surface, what is the cause for generosity? Gratitude. How does one be grateful? Gratitude is in effect, the cause for gratitude is grinding. And grinding means you work hard and smart and you love working. When you love working, you naturally are grateful for those opportunities, correct? And whatever comes from those opportunities, you don't need them nor even want them. So what do you do with that? You give it away. We don't love our work. And I don't mean professionally. I've been unemployed since 2005, 15 years. I've been unemployed. But I think I've worked harder this year than I've ever worked before. So grind, find meaning in what you do. You will be grateful, then you will be generous. So how do you remind yourself to be a grinder? The right role models. If we're exposed to people who procrastinate, we will too. Every high school student I teach through CMWRC, yes? I try to grind that out of them. Okay, next.
So the next question is from Meera ji. Focusing on rituals is not an easy feat when you don't know the meaning, Vivek ji. What can we do?
Mm-hmm. Focusing on a ritual is hard to focus on when you don't know the meaning. What are you supposed to do? In the world, when you don't know the meaning of something, what do? You find the meaning, no? Dictionary.com, that's one example. You research a route to go from Frederick to Chantilly if you don't know how to. See how we make excuses when it comes to that which we don't want to do? Yes? Whatever you want to do, you will find ways to do it. Whatever you don't want to do, like Prince Arjuna, look at how many excuses he came up with. And Bhagavan Krishna didn't entertain any of them. Gaurang uncle, who many of you know, he had once told a group of us, we all have PhDs. And we were all so happy, like, PhD in Vichara or PhD in Sadhana. And he said PhD in justification. We can justify our position in any way, correct? Make it known. Many years ago, I spoke in Frederick on our samskaras, and many of you were there. My parents didn't know what the samskaras were. I never went through any of the samskaras. And I didn't know that, but I wanted to because I know this is important, so I researched that. Yes, because I wanted to. I needed to do that. And number 2, more important than vidhi is bhava. And I did share this last year at Somnath when we went through Shiva Manasa Puja, correct? It doesn't matter if you chant a mantra wrong or if you offer the flower overhand rather than underhand. See, earlier today we set up an altar in our living room, and Vyasa and I were holding the Aarti Thali. And after 3 rounds, he blew out the diya. He thought it was like a birthday candle. So Sheila and I were so mad. We weren't mad at all. He's in front of the altar. He thinks this is Devi's birthday. That's the right bhava, isn't it? So more important than vidhi is bhava. So if you don't know the externalities, it doesn't matter as long as you have that feeling inside. And we've all gone through this. Our younger son Shuka, when he's eating, occasionally he'll say, Appa, and he'll put his dirty hand with that dirty food towards my mouth. And what can I do but eat it, correct? Because his feeling is so that he wants to share that. If you did that, I'd knock it out of your hand and say, eat it yourself. Correct? See how different the bhava is. So we live like that. Now we have to do the same towards our Divine Mother. Okay, continuing.
Thank you, Vivekji. So the next question is from Sita Ramji. Vivekji, you referred to enjoy in your talk. Can you please re-explain what is enjoy?
Sure. Enjoying is like enquiring. You're investing in that which is not you. Not you is typically articles like my laptop and my microphone and my glasses, circumstances, this office, and now it's nighttime and I have to go to sleep, and beings, my wife, my kids, my neighbors, all of you. We're always directing ourselves outwards towards A, B's, and C's, correct? Enjoying or inquiring, like Sri Ramana's encouragement of us to inquire, is about who are you? And the body we don't need to inquire into. We look in the mirror enough. Even when we shouldn't be looking in the mirror, we're looking in the mirror, correct? Like when you brush your teeth, why do you need to look in the mirror? Correct? You can't even see your teeth. Our mind specifically. Get to know your mind. And so many times we study that the mind is relentless, ruthless, etc. But I love how Guruji shared Shiva Sankalpa we have to make our mind Shiva. Shiva can mean auspicious, Shiva can mean positive. When your mind starts to become pure in some of the ways I shared, that is joy. But where is it coming from? Inside. That's where I said your best friend becomes your own mind. But those who are not engaged in self-development, those who don't do sadhana, this word enjoy is just a word. It's just a lie. Okay. It's up to you if you want me to take one more question or not. It's your call.
Vivekji, we have one final question. This is from Mridula ji, who is actually joining the retreat from India. He writes, Dear Vivekji, very beautiful and deeply insightful thoughts. Even though we are aware of our egos, how do we avoid forgetting, remembering the goddess who lives within us so we can overcome our egos?
Yeah, understood. How do we check our egos? Two ways to check our ego. Number one is try to revolve around those who are much more accomplished than us in a sattvic way. I don't mean they drive a faster car or they employ more people. I mean people who it's unimaginable how much they've contributed to society. Then our big egos that look at, I've organized this, or I've done this, or I've given this, in reference to them, nothing, yes? You can hear the special sound effects. You're welcome for these special sound effects. So make sure you revolve around those who are the greatest. Secondly is, the more in tune you are with change, the less you depend on that change. Remember I said ego manifests as expectations. How? Recognition, appreciation, inclusion. But if you know everything is changing, what are you to be included in? Appreciated for, recognized for, it's all changing. Who cares? So be around those who are great in a sattvic way and be in tune with change. And one comes to see the futility, how ridiculous the ego is. It's trying to hold on to something that can't be held on to, like a shadow. Fair? Okay. I think my time is complete now, and I just want to offer two final sentiments. It'll take less than a minute. I started off sharing how honored I am to remember our Divine Mother. I can't think of a better way to celebrate Navaratri than what is being organized right now. Otherwise, we sing and dance, but there's no bhava to it. The fact that you're smiling and nodding right now, I know you're happy that I'm leaving soon. Some bhava is there, yes? So I am honored, and that we are all her children. Doesn't matter how we look or how old we are or how much we know, we're all her children. All of the dakshina that will be asked for and contributed is for CMWRC. As I mentioned, I feel as part of CMWRC as any of you do. And so I'm here just to give, not to get. And I'm encouraging all of you to encourage others to still register for this retreat. There should be thousands in this utsava, not hundreds, thousands. So keep on spreading the word. And remember that Navaratri is not just for Hindus, not just for those of Indian origin. A way our community is celebrating Navaratri is to support women's shelters. Many of you know that, and I want us to be open towards all beings during Navaratri. The Divine Mother doesn't live in Varanasi, doesn't live in Chinmaya Mission, lives in all humans, all animals, plants, stones. Thank you.
Hari Om, Vivekji. Thank you so much for joining us on this very first evening of our Navaratri retreat. We are really blessed to have you here with us today, and we wanted to thank you and your family as well for sharing you with us this evening. Thank you so much. Hari Om. We would like to now request everyone to please join us for the conclusion of this first evening's program with Arati, and we hope to see you all again tomorrow. Hari Om.
जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहरिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय तू ही सतचित सुखमय शुद्ध ब्रह्म रूपा सत्य सनातन सुंदर कर शिव सुर भूपा माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय अविकारी अगहारी अकल कलाधारी करता विधि भरता हरि हर संहरकारी जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय दश विद्या नव दुर्गा नाना शस्त्र करा अष्ट मातृका योगिनी नव नव रूप धरा माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय मूलाधार निवासिनी इह पर सिद्धि प्रदे कालातीता काली कमला तू वरदे जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय हम अति दीन दुखी माँ विपट जाल घेरे है कपूत अति कपटी पर बालक तेरे माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय भयहरिणी भवतारिणी भवभामिनी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय माँ जग जननी जय जय आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप आरती सद्गुरु की। चरणों में उनके शांति समाये, शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए, पाप ताप संताप हरण की। आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया, धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया, शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की। आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। सिद्ध बारिकी तपोभूमि में, नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे। भक्त हृदय आनंद स्रोत की। आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। आरती सद्गुरु की। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Hari Om. Thank you to everyone for joining us. We will see you all again tomorrow evening with Vilasni ji. So we'll send a reminder again tonight with the details of the program. There is a small Devi Puja that Vilasni ji will be leading, so you'll have to have a few things ready for the Devi Puja with you, and then she will give a talk and there'll be Q&A like today. Thank you everyone for joining. Hari Om and good night.